How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a different kind of Isaac video. Today I'll be covering the changes that have been made to certain items in the most recent patch that dropped yesterday, which was November 4th, 2022. We're going to start with the items that weren't exactly buffed or nerfed, since there was only like 3 of them. And the first one is Glowing Hourglass, which has now been changed from being a normal 4-charge active item like it used to be, to being a 3-time use item per floor, where after you've expended the 3 uses, you need to go to the next floor in order to get them back, sort of like the eraser. But I'm not sure how I feel about this change, because I really do like the Glowing Hourglass as an item, and not being able to use it more than 3 times per floor, well, that is probably a good change, kind of bums me out a little, because there are a lot of shenanigans I used to be able to pull with this item. So, anyway, I guess let's move on. Kane's Other Eye. It now follows Isaac, instead of bouncing around the room randomly like it used to, and it will copy like stats and tier effects that Isaac gets, but it shoots in a random cardinal direction. So, it is pretty good and can be helpful if it ends up shooting in the right way with you, because anything that you get, it will get. I'm not sure if things like Brimstone work, though. No, Brimstone works. Anything you get works on this item now, which is definitely a buff, but at the same time, kind of like a nerf in one regard as well, because he's not going to be hitting exactly where you want him all the time. But no, I'd say this is definitely a buff in general. We could try this with a little bit of soy milk, maybe. Aha! That is weird. The last item that received a sort of up and downward adjustment is the D10, which is now a 2-charge active item rather than 1, but it will now attempt to downgrade enemies rather than just randomly making enemies. Like that, for example. Just turned some of those poop into actual poop and downgraded the big one into small ones. It's definitely a buff, but also technically it costs 1 more charge to use now, so it's kind of also a nerf. You can see it as that too. But, you know. I'd say this is probably better than it used to be. A lot better. Now we're going to go over the items that got nerfed. C-section. Forget how weird this item was. It's still very, very, very powerful for sure, but its damage was dropped to 75% of Isaac's damage every 10 frames, rather than 100% of Isaac's damage every 8 frames, which is honestly a pretty significant change. C-section is going to remain one of the strongest items in the game, though. I don't think this is going to change much. I mean, even with this damage down, like, you just don't have to try with this item, genuinely. Just gonna go ahead and do this boss fight to show off the fact that this item's nerf was not enough to make it a bad item, if they were trying to go for that, which I doubt it, since they've tried to make all of the bad items good. As for the next item that got nerfed, there isn't one. That's all that got nerfed? Okay. I guess we can move on to the fun stuff. Buffed items. These are the items that I feel like went through the most change. I feel like Repentance, when it came out, like one of the major things they focused on was making sure that most of the shitty items in the game were at least somewhat usable. They changed like Isaac's Heart and, you know, Holy Water, made them all viable and stuff. But Breath of Life received a huge buff, although it's kind of a little scary to use, I feel like, sometimes. It used to be kind of an item just specifically for getting into things like Curse Room with its, you know, invincibility, but, well, you can still do that, get through the Curse Room doors with invincibility. It has a secondary use, and it's probably now the primary use, now that I think about it. You can do this. Yeah, Holy Laser. It actually has a larger kill radius than I thought it would. And if you perfectly time running into the enemy, like right when the timer runs out, that happens, and you get that big cross that does a lot of damage. Honestly, the cross is not like even super necessary to deal pretty good damage with this. If you just run into enemies as it deactivates and hit them with the normal Holy Beam, you're typically going to end up doing a lot of damage. Excuse the fact that I just let that fly hit me. That cross is satisfying to pull off. I'm going to try to do the whole floor with this. Oh shit. Did that spider just jump over me? Hey, check this out. Losers. Let's see if I can take out the boss with this new adjusted Breath of... Oh, you fucker. This is a really annoying boss. Oh, no. This is a really annoying boss to try to test this on. Oh! Oh! You go, Holy Cross! That was insane. No, I couldn't reach him. Stay there, stay there, stay there. No, you fucker. Okay, got him a little bit. Yeah! That's a fun adjustment. I like this item now. Alright, moving on. Lil Dumpy farts more now. More specifically, it now has a secondary larger detection radius that can cause it to randomly trigger from nearby projectiles, which is a buff, right? Am I right for counting that as a buff? I mean, this... Lil Dumpy's a little weird. I mean, I don't know if anything you do to him could be considered a buff or a nerf, because, like, what is he even doing here? Besides being amazing. Friend can now drop batteries and items from the beggar pool, which seems like it should have been the case from the start, because I would, like, literally never take this little shit, because I knew he would just take all my money and give nothing in return. So at least now, he can give you the occasional thing, like, I guess, a sack, or probably health upgrades and mapping, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's the battery payouts right there, and I did get this right here. So, looks like that's working as intended. Moving on. The Black Bean. Everybody's favorite item now got a buff that it now farts multiple times when you take damage. Oh! I was gonna say that it probably doesn't change the fact that the item is a bad item, but I don't know. That seems kinda good. That's a lot of poison and a lot of farts. That's, like, really strong for a self-damage item actually now. Huh. I was gonna go on a little rant about how giving this item a positive adjustment like this isn't gonna change the fact that it's garbage, but honestly, this is a pretty good change. It's still not, like, a fantastic item by any means. 2020 is now a 20% damage minus instead of a 25% damage minus, which is great because, you know, it was already a fantastic item before with minus 25% damage, but now it's even better. So if you for some reason weren't taking 2020 because you were worried about the damage down that it gives you, now is the time to start taking it. Even though you probably should have been taking it the whole time. This item is really good. Isaac's Tears buff, who cares? Sticky bombs apparently now leave a slowing creep trail, or, like, spot on the ground, which kinda just seems like something it always should have done, realistically, but I'm glad that it's in the game now. It is a nice change, and I feel like it makes a lot more sense. A Thame, or a Thame, or however the hell you pronounce that, is definitely a lot better now, because if you remember back in, like, Afterbirth, it used to have a chance of dropping black hearts whenever it activated. That's still not the case, but that happens now. It's instead of when you get hit, there's a chance of when enemies die, they create the black ring around where they died, instead of, you know, the black ring appearing around Isaac. Which could be seen as both a good and a bad thing. Personally, I'm on the side of thinking it's a good thing. It apparently isn't a very low chance to activate either, considering the fact that my luck is 0 and I've already had it activate as many times as I have. Okay, finally, a room I can show this off in. Jesus Christ, I had to restart like 10 fucking times. Anyway, Betrayal now, instead of causing charm on every enemy in the room when you take damage, it now just turns on friendly fire for enemies, and if an enemy shoots another enemy, then they get pissed and start attacking them, which is hilarious, and a little reminiscent of how the mobs work in Minecraft. This is actually harder to line up than you think. It's like impossible to get the guy to shoot through the enemy. There we go. Oh wow, that worked well. There we go. I do like that change, but God was it hard to show off for the video. What the hell? My Shadow received an interesting change, because you see how this is like following behind me right here? We gotta do some weird shit with this little shadow circle behind us. There we go. Once an enemy touches it, you create these little dark chargers that go out and attack your enemies, which I think is definitely a better version of the item. I mean, these go away when you enter a new room though, there's that. You kind of have to resummon them every time you enter into a room. But considering how fast you can summon them if you're doing it right, which I'm certainly not. There we go. There we go, look at that. Got so many little dudes in here. I honestly really like this change. This is cool. Oh yeah, and while we're on the subject of shadow-like items that follow behind you and summon dark chargers, Shade got a damage boost. It went up from 2 damage per tick to 5, which is over double. Pretty impressive buff, honestly. Lil Brimstone got a damage buff. Not a huge one, but he's slightly more powerful now, which I feel like is already kind of noticeable. I will certainly welcome Lil Brimstone getting a little stronger. I did kind of feel like they nerfed him a little hard in Repentance. Oh, this one's funny. My Reflection is now a damage up. Similar damage up, actually identical damage up to Death Touch, which is quite funny. As well as the fact that you get a -1 luck when picking up this item, because it's a broken mirror, which I think that's very clever. I like that change a lot. It is technically a little bit of a nerf, making it, you know, lose you 1 luck when you pick it up, but considering you're gaining as much damage as you are, I think it's a worth it trade-off. Mom's Pad buff, it cools down faster and spawns a fly when you use it. Let's just move on. And for our final change relating to items, this is actually a trinket adjustment. The duct tape trinket now affects followers that would, like, literally follow you, things like Shade, for example. So if I give myself Shade... Oh wow, that's weird. Let me drop the duct tape so I can show this off a little bit better. So Shade normally is supposed to follow behind you on a little bit of a delay, but if I pick up the duct tape, he stays exactly where he is. This was not how it worked in the previous update, and he would just completely ignore the fact that you were holding the duct tape. So this is actually really cool, and you can use this for some pretty interesting things. Like, you can have your Shade, for example, just stand directly in front of you, and you can use him as a weapon. Just contact damage enemies like this. Yeah, check this shit out. This is a great synergy. And that's it for all of the changes made to how the items function. They also... Whoops, I don't want to be in Curse of Darkness right now. They also moved a lot of items around in the item pools, like putting Epic Fetus back in the treasure pool, which is odd, since they took it out of that same pool when Repentance first came out. There were a number of bug fixes as well as visual and audio changes that I may go over if there's interest in it, but for now, I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I hope you guys check out my other videos. Bye!